Hey guys, we are back for another episode of Zero to 100,000 in Real Estate, and I'm here with a very special guest. Always comes with a ton of energy. Got accolades out the yin yang. This is Mr. Remax. This is top 40, or Torchbearer, top 40 agents under 40, Remax Hall of Fame, Titan Club Award winner, top producing agent. DJ, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here today. Just one of the many things we get to do in a day, but I'm really excited about it. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you're someone who every time I've been around you, you get people to smile. You get people to feel invigorated. That's a that's a blessing in and of itself. Just you and who you are is a blessing. And I think for everybody listening in, tell them, who is DJ? How'd you get here today? Where'd you come from? And let's just dive right into it.
Yeah, I'm kind of a simple guy, not a whole lot of layers to me, probably more than some others. But as far as like how I got here today, I started real estate in 2016. I did it part time. Traditional entry to the business, right? You got to be able to cover your bills. So how do you go about doing that? Is it extra income, things like that? I was working a corporate job, so I had a lot of flexibility and free time, so it was a perfect side business, right? And then somewhere about that, like first year in, I fell in love with it. I loved what I was doing, so I knew this was going to be the ticket for me. That I wasn't going to be able to find something that made me happier doing something else. And that's kind of the history of it. I worked for a few more years in that corporate job. And then right before COVID, my fiance, Lexi, who works hand in hand with me, she does a lot of the marketing and stuff in the office for us. Lexi was in nursing school. So part of the plan was to put Lexi through nursing school. She would become an RN, and then I would quit my corporate job and do this full time, right? Like who knows,
Oh,
up and down of this business. And then Mr. COVID showed up, and that was so this was like at the end of 2019. Lexi had a semester left of nursing school, and we were on target for that like June 2020 of making this whole thing a reality, her becoming a nurse and me leaving the job I was at. And in February, the company I worked for was restructuring, and they announced a severance package. And I had been there almost, I think it was like 9 years. And so I had a pretty good severance package that was in front of me that was basically like a year's salary with all the weeks I had accrued. And I said, you know what? I'm going for this. I'm like, this is perfect. Like, this is my way out. I'll have pay till basically December. I can leave now at the end of June with pay through. Like, it was just a perfect storm. Well, then March came and we went into lockdown, and I had already filled out the forms, and I went, what the heck did I do? I left my easy job that was like not going nowhere. So it was really a wild time. And at that time, and before I left my job, I switched to Remax. I decided to go from Future Home, kind of not the same brand presence that Remax has. And I like the brand. I interviewed with a couple different offices, and the office I landed at, I really felt was like an awesome fit. Everybody was like a family. I wanted that feel when I walked in the office. I wanted people to know, I wanted to know everybody and be able to go walk in and say hello to Jim and say hello to certain people and those types of things. So I had that. I finally found that.
yep.
But I was still a growing agent at that point. So it was still very, very weird. So I joined Remax, and then I got this severance package, and then COVID hit. Well, once I joined Remax and we had decided that that's what we were doing, I really, really started focusing on the real estate business more so than I ever had. I was able to really right out the gate. I had a really good social network, and then we just started doing videos and really like getting our own seat in the market, right? How are we different from everybody else? And we started doing that, and we grew it organically, not super fast. I mean, fast in the whole sense of where we're at now. But it was, very step by step, making strategic plans with the business. And I got it to where I couldn't handle it by myself. I couldn't do everything. I couldn't handle the transactions and the sales and everything, and being in all the appointments and stuff. So then I brought Lexi on in probably February time, full time of 2020. And this was all before COVID. I was slammed. And then COVID happened, and we were all like, what's going to happen? We all were in
Yep.
that boat. And then we came out of it, like in June, like kind of like a rocket. Like people were like, okay, we've been tied up in our homes for 3 months. We want to live in a house. We don't want to be in the city anymore. And then obviously everybody knows what happened to the market here in Florida. So, and we kept growing the business. Lexi and I worked all 2020, just her and I. And we had a really successful year. I think it was right at 20 million in 2020. I think that was the number. I'm terrible with numbers as far as like stats and data. That's not my thing. It's just not my thing. I leave that to other people. I'm a people person. I want to go talk with people. I don't want to be looking at a computer with numbers. That's for the accounting department, as I say.
Yep.
So we worked through all that, and then we were basically coming into 21 with really good momentum. Lexi and I were working until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, every single night, 7 days a week. It was just too much. So I brought on my first quote unquote employee. I brought on Jessie, who's still with us, and she does an amazing job. She's our transaction manager. And Jessie really allowed us in 2021. She took the job by the horns. Jessie's a friend of mine. We've been friends since we were in third grade. So it was somebody really near and dear, close to me, which I think is also very important. Like,
Yep.
we're growing, like the culture is super important. I don't have nobody in my circle is like an outsider. It's always somebody that I know or have a relationship with. I already have trust, because I think that's a big part of it, and also keeping that like environment in a good place, as far as work goes. And then so Jessie allowed us to like really grow in 21, because now we had somebody that developed that admin role, and she made it better and better and better. Once she was new to the real estate business, so once she got over the hurdles of being new to the business and had figured it out, really allowed us to grow. We did a lot of growth. I think we ended up at right around 35 million for 21. And by the end of 21, we were at the point where Jessie, Lexi, and I were working around the clock. We needed more help. So we brought on another agent. I brought on Danny, who got licensed, and we kind of trained her before she got licensed so that she kind of came out the gate knowing what she was needed to know. And then I brought on one more agent before the end of the year, Lori, we're all still working together. It's been fantastic. And Lori has kind of developed into like kind of do a little bit of everything. She's a very experienced agent. She's been in the business like 20 plus years. And so her and I lean on her a lot of time for guidance on certain stuff. And it's really kind of cool to have a different perspective in the office that's a little more seasoned.
Yeah.
So sometimes, I have a lot of new ideas, a lot of, younger ideas, whatever you want to call them. But, sometimes you look at somebody that's more experienced and they're able to give us a perspective that I didn't see. And then I go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Or maybe I should do a handwritten note to that person. Right. Or like just a different way of approaching certain things. And so we grew, and then into this year, we got to March where everybody in the office, me, Danny, and Lori, were producing enough business that Jessie then got overwhelmed. So I ended up bringing in another admin. So we have 2 full-time admin now. So we make sure that the transactions just run super smooth. We don't miss a beat. They were able to help us do a lot of bringing in. Lynn was also somebody that I knew. One of the first properties I sold, I actually sold it to Lynn and her husband. So again, full circle, kind of funny how things work out.
Yep.
I sold the property for a good friend of mine, and her husband and her purchased the property. Well, fast forward down the road, I had sold her family, her parents, lots of family members' properties. And then I ended up selling their place. And, as time went on, she bought a couple other houses, and we just all were close right from the get-go, because they were new to Florida, and it worked out really cool. And now she's been on the team, I think 6 months. We're getting ready to cross. And it's been really, really great. So we've kind of jumped on a rocket and just been handling it as best as we can, one
That's
quarter at a time. But
I love it, man. I love it. Like what you just said is really what it is. I think so you're a visionary, right? Like you're a type that's just like you see it and you're going, right?
yeah,
And but a lot of agents have this idea that they want to get it just perfect. They want to have all these things
it's
that are
never
sitting
perfect.
there,
Yeah.
right? You know it. I can tell just by the way this is
It's never
happening. You're like,
perfect. It's never perfect, and the biggest thing that I tell everybody in the office, is like this is a relationship business. Like it's not about the one transaction. It's about the five transactions that person might do in the next 25 years, right?
yep,
It's about like always doing the right thing and making sure that the client is always well protected, taken care of, and handled. Like you got to make tough calls on stuff sometimes. I always tell people, sometimes when they don't always want to hear what you have to say, but sometimes you got to hit them right between the eyes, because if you don't hit them right here, bam, with the information, like straight on, you're not sugarcoating things, then you're just adding fluff, and your message gets diluted.
yep,
We have to make a lot of times that, they're $5,000 and $10,000 calls on stuff, right?
yep,
Between this contract and that contract, or the price of a repair or something like that. And sometimes you have to look at the client and go, what is really important to you? Like, does this sale change your life? Right? That's a very straight up, like right in between the eyes kind of question. And we do that, but also with a love. There's some finesse to it. You're not like
yeah,
very just blunt, and you're not walking around with a hammer just hitting everybody. Like it's a very delicate thing. But sometimes you got to make those calls, and you have to ask the difficult question of like, does $5,000 make you not want to sell this property? Oh no, I'm not going to let it go over 5,000. Okay, well then think about it then when you're arguing one way or the other about whatever needs to be repaired or whatnot. So it's just a wild roller coaster, this business sometimes. But
sure is.
we keep like the biggest thing for me is like I want to make sure that the experience, and I think that's a big thing that you do really well as well, is the experience for the client, right? We want them to leave like, hey, you know what? DJ and his team killed it. They did everything they could. Sometimes the deals don't go through no matter how hard we fight it, right? Sometimes you just go, you know what? We'll try it on the next one. And you save it with the client, and you go, it's not about this paycheck. It's about what that client's going to purchase in the long term, and always just doing the right thing. Like I got to be able to sleep at night. Like I know I go to bed every night, and I didn't do anybody wrong. Like we always do the right thing. And I'm the first one to get my checkbook out when there's a problem and fix it, because I always feel like that's the right thing to do. Might have been something I missed, might have been something my team missed, right? Couldn't have been, it wasn't my
Happens.
fault. Like I didn't live in the house, or whatever. But always doing the right thing is a big part of what we do. And I think I've been able to transition that thought and process into like everybody on the team, like empowering like the people around you is super important. Like I tell the girls in the office, I'm like, hey, you know what? Make the call. If I'm not here and there's something that you got to decide on, like I support you 100%. If you make the call and it's like, hey, this is what we're doing, great, we'll do it. You know what I mean? Now, if I think we can add to it or we can make it better, I might put in my 2 cents, because that's just who I am.
Yep,
But also too, like you have to empower people to make decisions and negotiate. And Lori and Danny are very strong negotiators, and they work their tails off. They build good relationships, and again, that's what I want in somebody that's on my team that works with me. I don't want somebody that's going to get steamrolled, and I got to come in every time and hammer another agent on something, or you don't want to do that. It's not the right experience in my opinion. I like to make friends with everybody. I don't want to have any enemies in this business. And we all know there's agents out there that it's I had one just this week, super abrasive in her approach. We had
all
a
the time.
I'll tell you this story because it's fun. And again, we could write a book because there's so many stories, but
All
this
the
was
time.
just this week, and I had an agent, and we have, from when we were busy, really busy, like you put a listing on the market and it would fly off the market in 3 seconds, right? So we're off of that now. The market's changed. It's not that way anymore. But I had, kind of pre-printed listing notes that say something to the effect, and I don't know the exact verbiage on it, but hey, make sure you review the documents, like, and if you have any questions, like, reach out to us. But because of the demand, make sure it says something like that. Something, the demand of houses, and it's just a realtor note, nothing that the public sees. And she wrote me, oh, well, I see you have this message in here about the demand, but the house has had several price reductions and has been on the market for 44 days. I'm just wondering if there's any issues. This is how she texts me. And I have a client very interested in the property. Mind you, I have no idea what property she's talking about because there's maybe 10 that are listed right now that are active on the market. So she gave me no address, gave me nothing. And then I asked her, I said, well, what property is this for? And she gave me the name, and I said, okay. So I wrote her back, and just very nicely, I said, has anybody mentioned to you that your approach is a little abrasive? And she wrote back, well, what does that have to do with anything? I said, I don't know. I like to make, I'm pretty easygoing. I'm pretty easy to get along with. Like, if maybe nobody's told you, maybe you just need to know this. And I'm the first guy to like bring it up. Right. So, and oh yeah, she was not happy with me after that.
I bet.
Like, and people were like, well, that's kind of funny that you do that. I'm like, well, what else? Like, if maybe
how do you grow?
Like I wasn't trying to be mean, but I was trying to like let her know, hey, you're being very abrasive so then she tells me, well, we're just going to skip this property, right? Like, we're going to just pass. I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't the right fit for the buyer. And I wrote her back, thanks for showing, right? Like, I assumed with that conversation, she'd shown the property. And she goes, oh, I haven't shown it. I'm like, oh, okay. So you haven't even seen the property and you're already like, this is where you're at with the text messages. So I just wrote her back. I'm like, even better, like don't like, don't show your client the house because you're not going to be the type of person we want to work with. We want to work with agents that want to work together, So, but it's just wild how people, they go through this business and they have this like chip on their shoulder. And
you got to almost think about like, so if you see that, the real question that if somebody's watching this and they feel like, I think we've all been that agent, right? I think we've all had a shit day is the truth. But
sure.
if you're consistently that way, you got to question whether or not you're supposed to be doing this. Like, I think you should wake up and like most days kind of be excited to speak to people. Like, I mean, I'm sure you do this all the time. Like, there was a situation on a property where they had the wrong zip code and the map placement was wrong for this piece of land. And I had somebody who was asking me about it, and I just called her. And, at first I could tell that she was kind of like, what are you talking about? Like she was kind of edgy. But then I'm like, hey, look, like, I'll be honest, if there's something wrong with my listing, I really hope that you call me because I'm going to make a mistake at some point. And all of a sudden she turned it around. But yeah, like being open, I love that your mindset there is that if you don't say anything, she's never going to change anything.
Yeah.
So you have to. Yeah.
Exactly. And too, like, I mean, we make mistakes on things. Like, we're only human, right? Like, I mean, the amount of data we input online just to do a listing is immense. So is it really easy to? I messed up I'll tell you this one. I messed up a zip code, not a zip code, a flood zone, on a property, and this was when the maps were being revised, which now they're more accurate. This was before the maps were. So I had like cross-referenced a FEMA map, and the map was updated, but the MLS was not. So I put what the FEMA map had because it was the new map code, right?
Yep.
And I listed it this way. I get a nasty gram from this agent. Like, you sell a lot of houses. You should have this correct, and I had to like bite my tongue and not just respond with what I wanted to say.
Yeah.
I wrote back, I said, well, actually, the maps in MLS, I don't know if you're aware, but they're not always accurate. And the FEMA maps have been released and yada, 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 basically explaining as to what I did. So it wasn't that I messed it up. I actually had it right. MLS had the maps wrong. So the lady responded back. She's like, well, these maps are correct. And I had to then like go back and say, the maps are not correct yet. Now they are. I cross-referenced one the other day, and it's now correct in MLS. But it was, just like, why do you gotta like, like, hey, I think
just
you should
chill.
check like, hey, why don't you check your flood zone? I think it's incorrect on this listing. That would have been great. Hey, thanks. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Hey,
way different.
Yeah. What are you doing? You're not doing this right. It's just like, it's just the wrong like behavior. Like, I think And that's, I think, one of the biggest thing with new agents. Like this job has a lot of responsibilities, almost so much that the licensing, in my opinion, that what it takes to be an agent is not strenuous. It's not vigorous
Exactly.
for what we're actually doing, right? We're selling big, expensive assets. We're advising clients on a lot of different avenues, construction, repairs. I mean, just all kinds of stuff that we're right. Like, I'm not an electrical engineer, right? Like,
Yep.
right. That's not what we do. I'm not a home inspector. I'm not a roofer. But these are things that we're advising people on, and the class that it takes to get the license, and that's a whole education problem with what
Everything.
it takes to get licensed. I tell everybody all the time, they're like, oh, I want to get licensed. Great. Go study for your test, pass the class. When you're done, do a memory dump. Dump everything you just learned right out. The only thing you can keep is the survey piece, like about finding land with that's the only thing that actually translates to this business. Because the rest of it, they don't teach you contracts. Well, that's the first thing you got to really learn, right? They don't, there's just so much. And, so I tell new agents all the time, I'm like, you have to, and that's kind of why, like, in my approach with my team, what I've done is, like, when Danny was the first that I brought on that was a new agent, but I brought her into the business 6 months before she was licensed. So that when she got licensed, she already knew. It was like a hit the ground running. Why are we paying all these fees and doing all this stuff? If you had a program like that to help you learn the business and then get your license so that you can sell, I mean, I think it's just a better way of doing it, because just like anything in education, like if it's not applied, what did you really learn? Okay, great. So you know the textbook definition of whatever, but that doesn't help you in this business. It's more important to be able to articulate what you're trying to do contract wise, be able to communicate with your customers and things like that, versus, well, I know how many square feet are in an acre. Now, is that very important? Yeah, that's one of the other, maybe that's another one. I need to add that to the things you learn in that class that might help you in this business, especially if you sell land like we do. So but it's just wild. So I always have that conversation with agents, and make sure that they're understanding that what they're learning in class is just to get get the license.
That's it. That's it.
And I have formal education, which is maybe why I approach things a little differently. I also worked for 10 years in 10 years in corporate America. So the processes and the way things are done are very different than small business. I'll tell you this, like, we're not perfect as a team, sometimes there's things that go on within everybody in the team. And I have the best group in this business, in my opinion. Like, we're all friends and family. Like, we go out to dinner, we go out to lunch, like, we have beers after work. Like, we have a really good environment, in my opinion. I could be wrong. They could be in the office going like, this guy's a jerk and we're just here because we're getting a paycheck. I don't know. But I hope they would just tell me, So, and we have a really good relationship that way. But there's times that are just, man, like, you got to tell somebody something. Like, you got to say it. You got to, make decisions on stuff. But we have a really good team and we work really well together. But there's times when we don't all get along. And I have to, like, pull that, like, corporate America, how they would handle this out of the air and go, okay, everybody, and I've done it before where we had some issues, and I go, okay, we're all going to breakfast, 7 a.m. I'll see everybody at this place. No work involved. Bring everybody in. Man, you got to talk about your feelings. You got to talk about, like, your, like, what's going on? What can we do to get better? How can we grow? Like, you got to have those, and you got to be open to do that. Because if not, the problem just gets bigger and bigger. And then, that's how people are unhappy at work. And that's my biggest fear, right? Like, I don't want that with my team. So, when we're engaging with a lot of people, I mean, we're six. What are we? Six? I'm one of six. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we're 6 total, including me. And there's times where we're just like, hey, you're gonna have to go apologize, like, or like, I was at work. I'm so sorry, like, and. But that's part of this, like, growth of a business and a team, and leading a team. It's not all often easy, it's fun. I love it. I don't know that I want to do anything else. Do I want a huge team of like 50 people? Probably not. That's probably not my jam. I'm a bit of a control freak, so like I have to like let go of stuff, and it's
Scary.
yeah, it's scary because you and again this goes back to trust and where that comes full circle with, do you trust the people that work for you, or do you trust the people that are around you, right? If I
Yep.
can't, what do I have? I can't if I can't trust them to handle one little thing, how can I trust them to go on a listing appointment? Or how can I trust them to go show a house and execute that? You know what I mean? And or handle the transaction for the girls that do that. You know what I mean? Like we pass folders around. I hand the girls a folder and I'm like, here's this. This is now under contract. Let me know when we have a problem. That's a big deal. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
and it takes that like letting go. But man, I tell you what, I let go of a lot of stuff and made sure that they have the tools that they need to really be successful, and it's been great. I mean, I have a lot less time doing those things, and I have more time doing the things that actually matter in this business, which is being in front of clients. We were able to then ramp up advertising. We're able to ramp up a lot of different things that gets me more appointments, which is what I'm best used for. I go to a listing appointment. We do good. We do good. I rarely go on a listing appointment and don't walk out with a listing. And I don't even bring the paperwork with me.
Yeah.
I show up, they're like, oh, we want to see about great. I come by with my folder, I bring the property appraiser card, I bring a quick little CMA that's automated just so I have some BS to like really like refresh my brain. And then Lori gets me a kind of a minor comp sheet that's very simple with a couple of the last sales that are comparable.
Yep.
Super simple. I walk in, I bring my folder, I do it old fashioned. I got a pen and paper. Hey, give me a home tour. Show me your property, and I let the owners guide me around, talk to me about the house. And then, I ask them what their goals are. Like, do you want to do some improvements here to get more money out of this? Or is it not in the budget and you got to sell it just like this? And then we got, and just very conversational. And I tell them, look, I'm not a pushy guy. I want you to interview other agents. And I tell them, you're not going to find a better guy in town to sell your house. I go,
Yeah.
but you should interview that and make sure that I'm the right fit for you. And then they're like, oh, okay, great. And I flat out tell them, I didn't even bring listing paperwork. My job at this first meeting is to meet you, look at your house, so I can go back home and do my homework, and I can actually give you a true value of what I think the property's worth. I said, that's all I'm here to do. Oh, great. So then I call them a day later or whatever, and I set up the next appointment, right? Because that's what you want to do, is get to the next appointment. And then I print the list docs. No intention of getting them signed. I go back and meet with them. Hey, this is what I think your house is worth. This is maybe some things we would do to improve the sale process. Maybe you want to paint this room that's purple. Maybe you want to, empty the trash that's on the side, right? Whatever the case is. And, kind of give them some thoughts of like things that they might want to consider that maybe they weren't considering. And then I always ask them, like, what's the next step for you guys? Like, I got it. I can sell this house, but where are you guys going? Because I'm always more interested in the story that what the people are doing than I am about the house. Like, I can sell the house. That's not the problem. What is it that are you guys downsizing? Are you guys need more room? Or are you tired of this HOA? Or are you like moving closer to family? Like, what is that question? You know what I mean? And that's how I do it. And literally people love that because you're not salesy. I'm me. That's how I do it. I'm not here like, hey, I got to have this listing paperwork signed today. I bring it. I'm like, hey, listen, if you guys are ready to go, I got it. I'm prepared. But if not, you guys let me know when's good. I'm here for you. I work for you. I'm not here, it's entirely up to you. Sometimes you got to go look at houses to see what the next step is. Wife thinks they want a condo. Husband's like, no, I just need a smaller house on land. Okay, well, let's go look at some stuff. Let's talk about it, right? And all of that just is part of the process. And that's what I find so interesting is like people's stories and people's like family dynamics and what are they trying to accomplish. And we can sell the house, right? Anybody can put a sign in the yard and take pictures, and it's not rocket science, but it's all how you interact. And I think that's where new agents could really learn is.
I think that's the right segue, right? So, like, right here, a lot of new agents watch this show. Like a lot of the people have subscribed, and that's also a segue here. If you're still on this and we're 30 minutes in and you're having fun, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe and also type some questions in here because we want to answer that. That's where this thing gets real fun, or we can get interactive. But please hit subscribe if you're on YouTube. This is something where we do this every single week with top producers like DJ, who are just coming on here and dedicating their time because they want to see other people win. But what I want to segue to is just dive in there, right? So, like, if you're whichever way you want to look at the perspective of it, but like you have to start over. What are you going to do to get from 0 to 100,000 real fast?
Yeah. I mean, if I had to start over, so like if I and right, like we've all had this thought, right? Like, okay, maybe I want to move. Right.
Yeah.
My whole business is here in Newport Richey, Tampa area, right? So, can it be done? Yeah, and you have to, So if I was to jump to another city, I'd probably be in Colorado somewhere because I think the mountains are beautiful. But, I also don't like the cold, so that's the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
But if I was to dive into another city, I mean, the biggest thing that's important for a new agent. So if you really want to be successful, like right out the gate, the biggest thing that you have to have is a social network. So if you got 500 friends on your Facebook and that's all you got, ramp it up. Start making content. It's really a lot about content. We say this all the time about content, right? Videos, tours, funny stuff, real life stuff, like whatever it is. You got to find something. Like I'm a big video tour guy. That's kind of what really propelled me past a lot of people. I can get a camera. I'm not microphone or camera shy. I'm not anything fancy to look at, but I'm okay with being on the camera, right? So that was the biggest thing that I was okay with. So while other agents are like, well, I don't want to really be on the camera, or I don't want to do, I said, the hell with it. Get the camera out. Let's go. And you got to kind of jump and you got to make something your own. So I made the video tours my own thing. Now, do I do videos about other stuff? I do some informative videos about, I always, septic systems. Whatever, like stupid random stuff, but house related. And I do those type of informative videos. But my main thing is when I list a property, I do a home tour that I walk through in 4K HD, and I do a tour of the property, pointing out things. You'll feel like you walk through the property in the video. It's a big selling feature. During COVID, it was a big thing. We did a lot of sight unseen sales, lots of them. I probably closed 20 properties. People never even saw the house, but I did these videos and it helped me sell the properties. So that's kind of what I've done. And then I've used that video content to be used on Facebook and social platforms to really drive engagement, right? It's all about that algorithm. Like now I'm getting into the marketing stuff that Lexi does that I don't quite understand wholly, but I know if you take videos and photos and interact and comment on posts and post about things and post to your stories, Facebook likes the word congratulations. I don't know. Use congratulations and things a lot. Just things like that. And you have to jump into social and do these videos and photos and stuff. If you were going to a new market and you were just getting started, get your camera out. You're not always going to get it right. Guess what? Everybody's walking around with one of these in their hand. And look, you see, mine's got 3 cameras. You don't have to have the one with 3 cameras. They have ones with 5. They have ones with 1. I don't care which camera phone you have, but use it. Turn the camera on and play with it and record it. You're not always going to get it right. I messed stuff up. My watch was ringing in a video the other day, and I went, I'm so sorry. And I'm like turning the watch off, and I couldn't get. And then Siri's back talking me, and it's just part of it. Like you just roll with it. Life doesn't have to be so serious that we're not Hollywood. These are not like right. Like these videos are not. They can be funny. I've tripped. I've gotten to doors that don't unlock, and I fumble with them for 30 seconds. Right, like all on camera, and it's funny. It's just part of it. I've stepped in dog poop. I've done all kinds of stuff on video while I was taking a home tour, and you live through it. The mower starts next door and whatever, but you just have to have fun with it. And
yeah,
if I was starting new, like I would tell any agent, everybody's already got this. There's no tool required. It's already here. Use it. Turn the camera on, make videos, talk about something. Go learn about something that regards to the house and make a video and post it all over. There's all kinds of groups. I just did a stupid video on everybody getting a free roof. You know, they're putting these door tags, and do I really like, does it really matter to me? No, I don't really care if you're getting a free roof or not, but it's the reason our insurance prices are going up. And I think everybody's really aggravated with that, you know? So you see your neighbor getting a free roof. Oh yeah. Well, maybe you want to tell them, hey, you know, that free roof just cost me $1,000 a year on my insurance for the next however many years. Hope you enjoy your free roof, right? You know, like, so I did a video on that, and you can do it. It just requires time and energy, and stuff that doesn't pay a reward right away. It just doesn't. You're not going to do a video today, and this video we're doing is not going to get us 10 new listings, right? It doesn't work that way. It's just, but it's part of it, because you have to be seen in your community to be, you know, we say this all the time in the office. I have a lot of experienced agents that, even just in my Remax office, that I adore. They're fabulous. These people are retirement age and are still killing it. They're still selling, you know, 40 houses a year by themselves, right? They're doing it old school. I love it. I think it's great. But those people come with a certain experience that we don't have. We weren't around when the MLS wasn't online.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, so they're still doing things a certain way, but you can it takes decades to build a business like they have. They have repeat business. They're not even advertising, and their phone's ringing, right? Hey, can you come sell my house? You did this, you know, 10 years ago, or you sold my mom's house, and now, you know, right? Like, that takes a long time to establish. But as far as new agents go, the social media piece is like, literally, it's like a rocket ship, right to the front of the line. And I just think if you were starting to go from 0 to 100, it's possible. It's super possible.
Oh yeah.
In today's market with the prices, I mean, even if you're averaging, I don't know, a 2% average, if you're using that number, you don't have to sell that many houses. You know, average commissions $7,000 to $10,000, and that's about what I see. In like, even with all I think we just crossed 130 houses for the year, and I think I'm like 7,000 ish on average. You know, I don't sell super big expensive houses all the time. They're, you know, just like they're a certain percentage of the market, that's the certain percentage you're going to sell them. If you're here in where we're at, our market, we're, you know, 350 is a good average, like, kind of spot where you're going to be for a house sale. You know, that's going to pay about $6,000, $7,000, $8,000. So you got to do 10 of them, got to do 12 of them, and you're there. So it's not impossible to do that. Is it nerve-wracking? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
let's take that a step, because, like, dude, I love this. Like, I think that the comparison you just made about, like, how long it takes to get to referral, right? Like, is what we're talking about for the old school method. Like, you're saying that, like, let's drop it out there and put it out here in video, get in front of people, create an audience that's going to follow us. Now, one thing that, like, I hope that everyone takes this and gets inspired, and I'm gonna kind of guinea pig you, or whatever you want to call it. Like, if y'all are looking for someone who's got great content that you can get your mind going, please go and follow DJ. Like, DJ's always posting something funny. And when you're posting something real, like, you're celebrating people, you're telling the story that the client's the hero. Like, I watch everything that you're doing, man. Like, it is the right perspective, right? Hey, no, it's the right perspective. But here's where I think, like I know, but I want you to tell them is, all right, so we create this audience and we've got people engaging. Like, do you usually send out and start to interact with people? Do you wait till they comment? Like, how do you better the relationship with the people that are engaging with you on social media? Because it doesn't, I don't want people to think that you walk away here and, like, your phone just rings, right? Like, there's a process that comes in here.
There's definitely a process. I mean, as far as, like, the social media side of it, we comment, you know, a lot of the people, and again, this is what's like that network, right? Like, who in your network, do you really know these people? Like, my Facebook, there's probably 2,500 people that I actually know. Like, I know their names. Like, I'll cross them, and you know what I mean? We go into any restaurant or whatever. I run into somebody I know. I don't just, like, wave and go to the table. You always stop and say hello. You have to, like, be out there, right? Or we'll be somewhere and they're like, oh, that's DJ. He's the real, what I think it's great. It's like you're
Yes.
almost local famous is the
Yeah.
goal. Okay. Look, I'll give you an example. I always have my sunglasses on my head. You're always going to, in video and whatever, this is what you get. I walk into your house. This is what I look like. I got my sunglasses on my head. I have these blue glasses. It's just what I wear. Maybe they're not cool. I've never been cool. So, but it's like, you got to have like your thing, and you gotta find what that is, and then you got to use that strength to get others to interact with you. I mean, as far as on the computer, yeah, we comment on stuff, we comment back on stuff. I have a lot of past clients, and so it's really fun. And a lot of times you catch up, people call you for stuff. Hey, listen, I'm doing this to the house, what do you think? Those are great. That's what you want to be. You want to be that like resource for your clients. But on social, like getting back to that, we comment and we interact with them via social. A lot of times it's Messenger. I get Messenger things all the time, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or I saw your video on that. Can you explain this more to me? The home purchase process. I mean, it's something the average person does every 5 to 10 years is probably when somebody buys and sells a house, somewhere in there. And again, I'm not a data person, so don't quote me on any of this stuff, but
7 years. Yeah, 7
yeah,
years.
so
Yeah.
it's in that ballpark sometimes. So now I've been 7 years in the business. I've already had a bunch of clients that are repeat business. So sometimes it's sooner. COVID changed a lot of that. So that propelled, hey, I got to have a home office. I'm working from home. Okay, well, the 2-bedroom house you bought is now not big enough, right? So some of that happens more often, but that's about the timeline. And so it takes that amount of time to really start your repeat business. And then when those clients come to you, man, you make that relationship even better that second time around. Because guess what? Now you're good at this. You were figuring it out the first time. Now you got a system. You know what you're doing. You know how to negotiate better. That's all. This is a learning thing. And I've been here 7 years doing this, and I learn new stuff every day. There's constantly stuff changing. Anybody that says, I've been doing this 20 years and this is how they're full of garbage. It's never been the same. It's not the same now. It's not going to be the same in the future. And that's why a new agent, sometimes you can use that to your advantage. You can use that you're new and you have a lot of knowledge that comes as you're growing in this business, that it's going to be it's a learning curve like this. It's like a wall, in the beginning, but it's definitely can be done. And you can use those new tools that you have to really educate yourself on the current stuff. Right. You're not going to tell a 20-year-old seasoned agent how it was having no MLS and you had to run around to offices to pick up keys and all this jazz, right? I can't tell that story, right? I've been told, because I listen to my elders, and pay attention to they give you examples of stuff, because it's true. They have an experience that we don't have, but those are things that I think if you really look at like how a new agent can use social and then also become like just a force within a market. Anybody that wants them can do it. I mean, they can fly right past me. I always say there's plenty of houses to sell.
Yeah.
And I look at the other top producers in our market, and I have great relationships with these people. Why? Because we're all there together. Like if you and I were doing a deal, like how great would that be? You know what I mean? It'd be fabulous. I'd love to go. You know what? I could tell my clients, the other guy on the other end of this knows what the heck he's doing. It's not going to be some garbage at the end of this that we got to worry about, So
I want to segue there, right? So like, and I'm partially curious.
You got to keep me online, because I'll just like out there.
We could do it for a while, but one thing I did when I came in is I identified exactly what you just said, right? Like, who are the ones crushing it in this business? I want to call them. If I can get them a coffee, I want to take them for a coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what can I do to engage with them? So one, I can learn from them. It was really what I wanted, but accidentally, when I called them about making an offer, they were much more receptive, and that makes things a lot easier. So did you do that when you came in? Did you run across some people that seemed to be common selling houses in your area?
I will tell you this. So like, because I came into this a lot slower than somebody that was going to jump into this, it's probably not a good reference, right? So I was doing a lot of friends and family, close people. Again, I have a good network. So I was selling decent amount of houses without a whole lot of effort.
Yep.
I think second year in, I think I did like 80,000 in commission part-time.
Yeah.
Not bad. You know what I mean? So, and that was years ago. So 80,000 was a lot harder to obtain at that point than it is now, because of the home prices. But we, like every time I get a new, like sometimes and I know how to filter this, like when I'm on the phone with a new agent, right? So they'll ask a question or they'll be trying to get something out of me. And I'll just happen to ask them like, hey, are you new? Are you new in the business? And honestly, be honest with if somebody asks you that, because I'll go leaps and bounds, break my back to help this agent. I mean, I've gotten offers on stuff, and I'm like, they didn't fill this out right. Like, let me call them. So I call them and ask, hey, are you a newer agent? Like, can I help you like understand this contract so that you can represent your client better? Because I'm not here to like take anything from anybody. I would never want to do that. And if I can offer like a piece of education to somebody that's a new fellow agent, like why the hell would we not want to do that? And this
100%.
this business doesn't always embrace that, and I know it takes time, and it can be frustrating because as a new agent you could really frustrate somebody that's more experienced. But I always take the time to make sure that they have a clear understanding of what if I can clarify something, or a lot of times it happens when we're doing something with land because it's less common. So if it's a piece of property or something like that, and the agent they've never done one. I've met agents been in the business 5 years, never done a vacant land contract, and so you have to like, hey, this is how we fill this out. This is what you're going to have here, and it's okay. I had to teach the team, right? It's the same thing, and I had to learn it at some point. So, and I asked when I had to learn, I asked the right questions, and I think for a new agent, like you have to be humble about, hey, I'm new, and I got to ask these questions. I don't know everything. I still ask questions. I don't know everything. There's no way
All the time.
I'll ever get to know everything. You learn all kinds of new stuff. Now I've been doing stuff with probates, and that's a whole nother world. That's not what I do every day. But there's just like there's an ocean of information that's needed to do this job properly, and it's like it's okay to ask. And I know a lot of these brokerages, they don't have it's not, the system isn't like it used to be. We used to have a broker, and that was like what a team lead is now, right?
Yep.
Like realistically, like take all the legal stuff out of it, but the broker used to be the team lead, and he had his agents, and those were the team members, right?
Yep.
And now it operates really different. The broker is just like at the high level with the office, and then us team leads operate like a broker as far as educating and coaching and all of those facets of the business that we handle when we have other people working with us. And the other thing I'll say too is, as a new agent, if you could find a really good fit, like a team that makes sense, that has like the tools that you're going to really need. I know Danny's doing really well, and a big part of that is like I have somebody that writes the contracts, right? Like we make a phone call. Hey, Jesse, can you write this up so we can get this sent, right? It's just beautiful. Like, here's what we need on the paperwork. So Danny can spend more time talking to people online, making posts, engaging, like so at the end of the day, yeah, there's a split, but I always say, like, what do you take home? Like, what is your bottom number that you actually take home? Like, are you more successful selling 20 houses with a split, or 5 houses and you did it all on your own? I don't know. It's to each their own, but that environment, like with a process, and then also too, to have an agent you trust that you can lean on. I think that's very important. Um, if you don't have somebody you can call and go, hey, I'm filling out this paperwork, what the hell am I doing? Or I got this client that's ready to put an offer. What's the first step? You know what I mean? The brokers
100%.
the brokers are not really there for that in most cases anymore. There's still a couple old schools that still operate like a big team, but that's so few and far between. It's just very, very different as far as like how the teams and the environment is for us agents now than it used
I
to
love
be.
it. I love it, man. And hey, dude, you crushed it here. I appreciate you, like, dude, diving in, taking your time. Your time is super valuable, and I appreciate
Yeah.
you coming on here. What's something I want to give? Nobody's asked a question, but if you're on here and you have a question, now's going to be the time, because I'm
Yeah.
gonna definitely have a last thought come out here from DJ. But Yeah, man, I'm always excited when I get around you. It always brings me a smile. And, you're just someone who's got a good heart. You do things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, is there anything in particular where you want to leave them off? Because, people coming on here, the ones that are going to be impacted, or either, they need some inspiration, or maybe they need some clarity of where to go, and leave them off on whatever, however you want to.
So I'll tell you this. This is something my dad has always said. Client passed this on to him, and I always like to pass this on. Um, so in life and in jobs, right? Like you might have done something else in the past, and there's always got to be one of two things, right? You either got to make so much money, it doesn't matter what you do, or you got to love what you do so much, it doesn't matter what you make, right?
Yeah.
So it's usually those polar opposite things, and I find this business for me, because I love it, and it's also can be very fruitful, that you fall somewhere in between those two poles.
Yeah.
And that's the coolest thing about this business, right? If you really are a go-getter, you can make a fortune in this business, right? If you were going to bust your tail, and if you're just like, you know what, I really need something that I can do that's gives me more family time, right? And I don't really want to sell 100 houses a year. I want to sell 10, and I would be good with that too. This job allows you to do that. You can work as hard or as not as hard as you want. And that's something I always pass on to new agents. I work like a maniac. Not everybody wants to do that. People have other priorities. I'm in my 30s. I enjoy the heck out of this business. Maybe one day it's not the case, but I don't think that's going to happen. But so for a new agent, you got to really think about like what's important. Like, do I want to really super hustle because it can be done, or do I want to take it easy? That can be done too. And there's no right or wrong answer. That the success doesn't come from the paycheck, because if that's what you're chasing in this business, it'll never make this. It will drive you crazy. It's
Yeah.
all I always say. Like, I'm about the stories and about the people. Like when you hand a first time buyer their keys at closing, they've never owned a home. There's
Nothing better.
no better feeling for me.
Nothing better.
And it's just nothing better. And I can tell you, I love to negotiate and engage with other agents and get things sorted out. But that for me is like the coolest thing in the entire world. And because homeownership's a great thing. And I think sometimes that piece is what's missing with agents in general, not just young or old, new or seasoned. It's that you really got to enjoy and love this business, because it can be very rewarding. So that's what I always tell new agents. I'm like, you gotta figure that out. What's important, and you go from there. So
Heck yeah, man. Well, thanks again for being here, for jumping on, and
yes,
there
thanks
was a
for
lot of
having me.
nuggets
It
that were
was
dropped.
awesome. Let me know. I'd be happy to do this again in the future. And if any of you guys have questions for me after the video, please reach out to us. We're always happy to answer the questions.
Heck yeah.
All
All right,
right,
everybody, go out there and crush it, y'all.
Yes, win and win big. See y'all later, and have a good weekend.